Alrighty, hi everyone, my name is Laura, welcome to my channel. Here I talk about New Zealand. No, I talk about mental health, minimalism and lifestyle, but I am from New Zealand. I'm currently sitting in New Zealand and people have said they want to hear about New Zealand. So we are going to do, I'm going to do a public service today in front of you guys because I am going to look at some of the top Google questions about New Zealand and answer them for you. Yes, this is not like researched. I have not looked at these questions. I am going to be doing like the suggested box of like, is New Zealand blank, whatever those are, and answer those. And then also the general Google search that you can do where you can look at New Zealand and then it has like associated questions. So you can find out more about the land of Lord of the Rings and Taika Waititi and me. And it's gonna be fun. So let's get into it, answer some questions. I'm expecting that some of these are gonna be really dumb and silly. And so I might end up laughing a lot at these, but I also think that it's probably gonna answer some pressing questions that I just have as like assumed knowledge that I don't even think is interesting or noteworthy or whatever. But let's get into it. All right, first up, what New Zealand is famous for, question mark. That's not a question, whoever asked that. But anyway, what New Zealand is famous for? I just kind of listed it. Lord of the Rings, Taika Waititi. We export a lot of milk. Back in the 80s, we exported a lot of wool. The country's pretty. We have a funny accent. It takes ages to get here, but people love coming here for holidays. There's no nuclear power in New Zealand. If you're a greenie, then you'll know about that. Oh, and we have weird birds. There you go. That's what New Zealand is famous for. You're welcome. How old is NZ as a country? I might have to check something on this. I would say that the country was founded in 1840 as a British state, which it still technically, I think, is as part of the Commonwealth. So I would say 1840. Wikipedia says it became a dominion in 1907. Okay, so I think it kind of comes back to your definition of country versus state versus dominion, apparently. But 1800s is when New Zealand became a country. Why New Zealand is beautiful. I love that. Why New Zealand is beautiful is because New Zealand is the land that is formed at the meeting of two tectonic plates. We're going geographic on this business. And so one of the plates is going down, one of the plates is coming up like this, and that bit that you get there is the land, which is why we have all of these cool mountains and all of these cool formations that then look really cool, and you have like the sounds where all the water is and all this cool stuff, all of the geographical stuff that makes it really pretty. Most of that is because meeting of tectonic plates, volcanic stuff. Sorry, I just burped. I just like smashed a plate of nachos and it was awesome. But yeah, that is why New Zealand is beautiful. Is it expensive to live in New Zealand? Yes. Yeah, it is. It is expensive to live in New Zealand. I think that when you look at the world rankings, it's not like the most expensive place to live in the world, but it is pretty up there. It's not a cheap place to live. I'll give you that. But I think it's probably comparable to like a lot of places in the sort of first world countries, so in the UK and in the States and Canada. And I think it's like different stuff is expensive. I know that like compared to the UK, power, like energy here is a lot cheaper, but then our like groceries generally are a lot more expensive and just stuff like that. Like it's not like a set rule. Who is older, Australia or New Zealand? I think from like a British Empire Commonwealth point of view, Australia is older than New Zealand. I think they were sending convicts there in like the 1700s where they were still figuring stuff out in New Zealand then. So I'd say from that point of view, Australia is older than New Zealand. From a First Peoples point of view, I know that they were sort of in both places for a few thousand years, but I think that they were in Australia longer. I think they were in Australia a lot longer actually. So again, Australia, if you're looking at First Peoples. Who lived in New Zealand first? The Māori people. Next question. What is New Zealand's old name? Oh, New Zealand's old name? The Māori name for New Zealand is Aotearoa. I actually think it's longer than Aotearoa. I think that's a shortened version. It's not an old name, it's the Māori name for anyone who was Googling that question. Is New Zealand bigger than England? No. No, they're both small-ish islands. But I think that England is still, England, it's, you know, it's a group, but I think it's still bigger than New Zealand. Let me check. No, New Zealand is a bit bigger than the size of Great Britain and a little smaller than Japan. Did you know that? There you go. Okay, that one's cheating. I said I was going to answer your questions and I just looked at what that one was. Is it better to live in New Zealand or UK? I want to say New Zealand. There's a lot of things that I think are better about New Zealand than the UK. One thing I will definitely give to the UK though is their proximity to the rest of the world. Like, it's far more convenient to live in the UK because if you want to go to different countries like on holiday and experience different cultures and different languages and all of this kind of stuff, it's a lot easier when you're in the UK. However, the number of immigrants from the UK to New Zealand probably says that there's some good stuff going on here in New Zealand. I'll say that much. Okay, I'm now going to switch to the like, is New Zealand blank and see what comes up with that, because I think that that's going to be really fun. Is New Zealand a country? I knew it. I freaking knew it. I knew that people would be out here asking, is New Zealand a country? Come on, guys. New Zealand is a country. The other one that people always ask, is New Zealand part of Australia? This one's a funny one because according to New Zealand, no, we are not part of Australia. We are our own country. We just established that one, right? We're not part of Australia. However, at one point, there was New Zealand listed as a state as part of Australia in the Australian Constitution, I believe, at some point. So I think that that is where that has come from and why people ask, is New Zealand part of Australia? Which I find really funny. Does New Zealand have snakes? We do not have snakes. There we go, that's a great question. Does New Zealand have snakes? No. I think we might have sea snakes, but those are different, I think. No, we do not have snakes. We also don't have squirrels, which I'm very sad about because I like squirrels. We've got rats and stoats and ferrets and possums, which aren't fun. I would trade those for squirrels, to be quite honest. So no snakes, no squirrels. Not that that was asked here, but I just feel like I need to tell you guys that. Does New Zealand have spiders? We have lots of spiders. They're not as scary as Australian spiders, but we definitely have spiders. Does New Zealand have states? No, it's just one big country, no states. Does New Zealand celebrate Thanksgiving? No, Thanksgiving isn't like a widely recognized like holiday or event here in New Zealand. I think that some people do Thanksgiving, but it's like people from Canada or the States who then celebrate it here. It's not like a part of New Zealand culture. Why is Kiwi important to New Zealand? Okay, so the Kiwi, which I think John Oliver recently called a rat holding a straw or something similar to that. I will look up what he said and put it here about the Kiwi. Okay, the Kiwi is our national bird. The Kiwi fruit that y'all get, you know, the fruit and it's green and sometimes you get the yellow ones. In New Zealand, we call that a kiwi fruit. It's kiwi fruit. The bird is called a kiwi. And the kiwi fruit, which is actually a Chinese gooseberry, sorry China, the kiwi fruit was named after the kiwi bird because the fruit was brown and hairy and the bird is brown and hairy. Well, it's feathery, but anyway, this is a comparison. It was a marketing thing, right? So we know it as the kiwi fruit because it's the fruit that looks like the kiwi. Overseas, they just called it the kiwi. And so it's really confusing because, and I will still remember this, so funny. I was chatting with some German tourists And they were saying to me in their German accent, which I will try to impersonate, they were like, we have been in New Zealand for 3 weeks now and we have not even eaten a kiwi yet. And I'm thinking, I really hope you haven't, because it's our native bird and it's protected and endangered, and please don't try eat one. And then I realized that they were talking about a kiwi fruit. So the whole like kiwi issue gets to me on a personal level. But anyway, so it is called a kiwi fruit because it looks like the kiwi, and the kiwi is important to us because it is our national bird. It's on our $1 coin, and they are endangered because they are flightless, because if you've seen them, they're very fat and they have tiny little wings. Ooh, super fun fact. So the reason why we have the kiwi, which is very fat, tiny little wings, I need to stop doing that. And why we have like the kakapo, which if you haven't seen the clip of the kakapo humping Stephen Fry's head, look that up. I'm not joking. Up until white man arrived in New Zealand and brought like rats and fun stuff like that, there were no mammals in New Zealand except for bats, which they believe got carried across in big storms from Australia. So for that one to sink in, no mammals. Okay, so when you think about like generally in the forests and whatever, you've got birds that are kind of living in the trees. You'll have like insects and lizards that are living on the ground and in little burrows. You'll also then sort of in the middle, you'll have small mammals on the ground. So like rabbits, squirrels, rats, etc. And then you'll have some larger mammals. So you'll have like deer and pigs and all of that sort of in the forest, right? And that's kind of the ecosystem. So all of that that's sort of at the ground level and sort of up to 2 meters. With the mammals, we didn't have any of that. So we had the birds up here and we had the lizards and the insects down here, and there was kind of nothing in the middle, right? And so, well, some of the insects got kind of big. Island giantism, it's why the Galapagos tortoises are so big. Look up island giantism, really interesting. But anyways, that's why we have some really big insects here. And also why our birds, because they weren't having to stay up away from like rats and stoats and all of that, all the predators on the ground, or like jaguars or I don't know, fun stuff like that. They weren't having to stay away from predators on the ground. The birds could come down. It uses a lot less energy for them to just kind of wander around rather than having to fly. So they decided to stay on the ground. And after a while, because evolution, they didn't need their wings anymore. So that's why we have so many flightless birds. And that's why the kiwi is so special to us, because he can't fly away from all the rats and the stoats and the ferrets and all of those mean things like that. So that's why we have to protect them. Okay, kiwi ran over. Why is New Zealand called New Zealand? Oh, New Zealand was named by this Dutch guy who said that New Zealand reminded him of where he had come from back in the Netherlands, back in Holland. That was called Zeeland, spelled Zeeland. So we became New Zealand. Why is New Zealand not part of Australia? Because it's not. I don't know, they just decided that it wasn't. And also the countries are very different. Like geographically speaking, they're very different. Australia's sort of red dirt and New Zealand's like quasi rainforest, you know, it's they're very different places. It'd be a bit weird to group them together. Why is New Zealand so backward? I don't know, guys. Damn, these questions are getting rude. Why are we so backwards? I don't know. Ooh, okay, cool. Those are interesting ones. Did New Zealand fight in World War II? Yes, very much so. Did New Zealand have slaves? I don't think so. Oh my gosh. Okay, apparently some Māori chiefs had slaves. And there was slavery in the Pacific. Okay, so we did have some slavery in New Zealand, but I don't think it was sort of like a huge systemic way that the country was built. like some places that shall remain unnamed. It seems like it was less New Zealand and more Solomon Islanders, Tongan Islanders, and Kiribati that had people who were tricked possibly by New Zealand and then ended up working as slaves in Australia producing sugar. So it seems like New Zealand did definitely facilitate some slavery, but it wasn't as prolific as other places. There you go. All right. Well, I definitely learned something, and it's good to know that stuff. Does New Zealand have daylight savings? Yes, we have daylight savings, and I freaking hate it. I am someone who likes to get up early. So when we do daylight savings to have more light in the evening, I mean, technically I'm recording this in the evening, and I couldn't have done that without daylight savings probably, because it would be too dark. But I like to go to bed early and get up early. And when it's light till really late because of daylight savings, I'm not getting to bed on time. And it just throws everything. And honestly, the week of daylight savings, I am just so cranky and wrecked. Like that whole week, it just throws me so bad. So we do have daylight savings. I wish we did not. Why does New Zealand do the haka? Ooh, that's a great question. So why does New Zealand do the haka? So my understanding of it is that when Māori tribes would go to war, before going into battle, they would be standing on either side, and it was kind of like the introduction to the battle where they would try and psych each other out. So they would be doing the chant about, I believe, like what they were fighting for and what they were going to do to them, and the actions that they were doing and the dancing was showing how big and how strong and how serious they were. So it was really to kind of try freak out the opposing group if you're going into battle, if it had got to that point. Māori weren't people who were just going around just having battles left and right, just FYI, right? There was a lot of communication and a lot of tradition and a lot of all of that would happen beforehand before it would get to this point. They were very civilized people who had like a whole hierarchy of rules and areas that people lived in and relations between tribes and all of that, right? But if it came to that, then this was one of the traditions before you go into battle, was to do the haka to psych yourself up and psych the other people out. And so that is why before playing rugby, which is obviously a fairly physical sport, and you're going in there to try to beat the other team, we do the haka. It is a very sacred ceremonial part. Hakas are not only done at the beginning of sports games in New Zealand, but also to honor people and to show respect for people. So I have seen hakas done at farewells and at funerals. And it may, if you're sitting there just seeing it on TV, look like sort of a weird, silly thing. But firstly, it's not. And secondly, when you see it in person and you see the real raw emotion that is being expressed through a haka that is done sincerely, yeah, it's goosebumps, man. Like shaking a little bit just thinking about it, because it is. It's a very intense, very special, emotional experience. It's also quite terrifying. But yeah, it's a very special thing to us, as is tamoko, which is the facial tattoos. Women who have those facial tattoos often have it here, like where people would have like a goatee beard. Men can have them over their whole face. And the Māori tattoos generally, whether it is on your face or on your body, and similar to, I think maybe the same, but at least very similar to a lot of Polynesian tattoos, is telling a story of people's ancestry and where they are from and about their family, etc. So if you are getting or even like painting on Māori tattoos when you don't know what it means, at the very least. I'm not going to say like if you don't have any Māori heritage or whatever, like if you understand, respect and appreciate the culture, then I think that there's a possibility there that that's fine, right? I'm not saying it is, but I think that people are more open to that. But yeah, if you don't understand it at all and you're just kind of painting stuff on, I think that generally as New Zealanders, and I don't speak for Māori people, of course, because I am not Māori myself, but from what I have been told, generally we don't sort of appreciate that. Particularly if it's being done in a way that's like specifically to mock rather than to, at least in some way, show appreciation and respect and that you think is cool, right? If it's in a way to mock, then yeah, we do take that as New Zealanders, and I know that Māori people especially would take that seriously. So that is why we do the haka. That is why the haka is important. That is why Māori tattoos are important as well. Why do New Zealand hate Australia? New Zealand and Australia mostly have like a sibling rivalry, right? Probably similar to like the US and Canada. Maybe a tiny bit less fraught. But anyway, there's still reasons for the New Zealand and Australia relationship to be fraught. But it's basically like a sibling rivalry, particularly in sports, right? They're like the big brother, we're like the little brother. We're always kind of fighting back and forth over like who's best and who's got the best this and who's got the best that, etc. There are some like actual political relations stuff that is like not good in certain areas, but overall it's pretty free for New Zealanders and Australians to travel and live between the countries. They get similar benefits. Australians get more in New Zealand than New Zealanders do in Australia. That's for another day. And people like to say how beautiful Australia is, but they also say how beautiful New Zealand is. So we're just both competing to be the most beautiful. But that's kind of it. There's nothing major there. Like New Zealand and Australia have never been at war or anything like this, you know? So we don't actually hate Australia. It's just a dumb sibling country rivalry. That's what I'm gonna say. Anyway, I hope that you found this to be valuable and or entertaining. One of those two, hopefully both. But yeah, if you want to know any more about New Zealand, I have a video on why I don't think Auckland is a very good city. That one's fun. And also my husband and I recently took a trip to Queenstown and Wanaka, which is one of the most beautiful places in New Zealand, quite honestly. So that's just like a really chill vlog. I ended up not talking through most of it. Mostly it's just like looking and seeing and taking it all in, but it is so beautiful. And I go through like all the places that we go to, and that's really fun. So I'll link that at the end of this too. And I'm planning to do a bit more of like a formal video about New Zealand. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I hope you had fun. Subscribe if you want to hear some more fun stuff from me, either about New Zealand, minimalism, mental health, lifestyle, all of that. And I will see you again soon. Bye.